Hi, I am LTT Moose.
And I am Mason Cat.
And we are here in the fanfiction writing room. This is basically just a nice, quiet place for great ideas.
Call the quills.
So much creativity goes into these fanfictions. It boggles the mind. The amount of fanfiction that this series has spawned, and we're fortunate enough to be here with a couple of fanfiction writers. We're going to go around the table and just introduce yourselves. Start with Nessa.
Oh, I'm the black sheep of this interview. I'm actually an animator.
Oh,
so,
okay. So
yes.
you bring their words to life,
yes.
basically.
After like 5 years of work, I can have like 2 minutes of animation. That's pretty much how it goes.
You're not part of this fandom if you can't do it faster.
I'm sorry!
Let's go on this side.
I'm not really a big fanfic writer, but, well, I read a lot of fanfic and I know quite a bit of things to do right and to do wrong, so.
So you're the lore master, basically. You know, you tell people, you go through with the red marker and say, no, this is wrong, you're doing it wrong.
I'm not really that specific, but I tend to point out people who are bad.
Your fanfic is bad and you should feel bad.
You are the veins of my existence!
I'm Book Player. I'm a fanfic writer on FimFiction.
Okay. Any particular, do you do any sort of like crossovers or?
I don't really do crossovers. I'm actually,
more of an in-universe type of thing?
shipping.
Oh, yes. Oh, you gotta love the shippers.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite ship?
Apple Dash. He and I are admins of the Apple Dash group on FimFiction, actually.
So they would have pretty much adorable foals, right?
Absolutely.
All right, and the next one over here?
I'm not much of a My Little Pony fan fiction writer. I've written a piece or two on FIM fiction under the name of Toby, but they're of no significance compared to Book Player's writing. I'm her husband and here to support her, and I am also Team Apple Dash all the way.
So then, what's your domain of preference?
I really like pulp writing, and I will typically, the stories I've written bring that into it, like
The old two-fisted tales type of thing?
the 1930s type stuff. I've written a story that had, Big Mac with a jetpack, and, or...
Two-fisted Poe, quote the Raven, lights out, pow!
Exactly, so that's more my thing, but I'm more in support of her than anything else.
That's fantastic. The family that fanfics together stays together.
I am Apple Jinx. I have written 4 books. Please don't read them. No good would come of that. And I just gave a panel on novel writing this morning, which I asked Everfree Network to cover. I may try to do it again in Quills and Sofas or sometimes. If you want to catch that, we can arrange to present it one more time. It's a panel on helping people finish their novels so they too can write an entire book. And
that's quite possibly the most common thing is the unfinished novel. Everybody starts one.
And it's not necessary. It's possible to finish your book. And I'm hoping people do that. I've had people coming in through here and it's, oh, thank you, because now I feel that I can finish the book that I wanted to write.
What would be your number one piece of advice to somebody who is the most common error that somebody would make? The thing that boils you every single time you see it when somebody says, hey, take a look at my fiction.
As the novelist panel writer, I would have to say, don't unwrite. There's no such thing as a bad fan fiction as long as somebody's enjoying it. But if you're trying to write stuff and then you're trying to fix everything that you did wrong and you unwrite, you had 3 chapters and then you're throwing them away and then you wind up with half of a chapter, nobody's happy with that. Pick something that you want to write. Pick a story that you want to tell and tell that. Because why not? Fan fiction is a great thing to do. Everything starts with words. All of this, I started my panel with a list of first lines, things from Sherlock Holmes to Harry Potter, and of course, The Friendship is Magic first line. And everything starts with fiction. Everything starts with writing. In fan fiction, you could say that My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic is fan fiction, because it is Lauren Faust's take on the My Little Pony stuff that she played with as a child. So
you could say all modern literature is fan fiction of ancient literature anyways. It's all been done before. There are no original ideas.
Pretty much, yeah. It's how you do it, and it's whether you care about the idea that you're telling. So yeah.
That is some great advice. I mean, definitely want to get on there. Mason, why don't you take it ahead?
All right, so
All right. I'm Aquaman. I do a lot of fan fiction like the guys here. I've been in this fandom for a pretty long while. Kind of the same thing Abject was talking about. I am, of course, guilty of the unfinished story complex. I've had a few unfinished novels. Most recent one that I have finished was much shorter, probably about 16,000 words worth of a story. I consider it a love letter to the Pirates of the Caribbean series. It's got a lot of the same style to it. I was very much trying to invoke that same kind of mystical wonder and grandeur to it. It's called Sky Pirates of Equestria. It's a little small thing. It didn't get a whole lot of views, but I was pretty proud of it. And, I generally... As what? Well, hopefully. I don't know.
He is Aquaman on Fin Fiction. Pretty easy to remember.
Yep.
Now,
Simple name.
if there was any advice that you guys could give to fan fiction people trying to start out in the fandom, what kind of advice would you give them starting out?
Starting out, I would say, and this is a simplistic version of it, everyone says show, don't tell. But what I think people misinterpret that as is they need to imply everything, and that's not necessarily true. What you need to do is when people tell you to show and don't tell, what they want you to really do is just don't plainly state what people are feeling and what people are doing.
You can't just have your characters say what they're feeling. That makes me feel angry.
Yeah, and there are situations where you can do that, but at the same time, it's so much more powerful and it's so much more sticks with the reader. If instead of saying my character is angry, you say my character's ankles are tightening up and her brows narrowed down. And I'm just, of course, saying this in a very simplistic way. Of course, that comes later in editing when I actually make it sound good. But when it first starts out, just make sure that you can give your story something that makes it not you just telling the story, but you letting the story tell itself in a little bit of a way.
Excellent. And last but not least,
I'm Couch Crusader, and I just wanted to expand on a couple of points that Aquaman and Applejinx brought up. If I had some advice for fan fiction writers, well, one of the reasons why show don't tell works is because if you're showing things, then you're allowing the reader to participate in the reading of the story. There's nothing a reader despises more than just having everything spelled out for him or her, so that they don't get the chance to kind of participate and evolve their own version of what's going on in the narrative and all that.
I want to add one thing there, though. When you asked me advice for beginning writers, I said show, don't tell, because that's the first thing you tell everyone. If you're asking me what I would give advice to advanced writers, what I would tell them to do, I'm going to go back to Pirates of the Caribbean for just a second here, because I want to say that whenever you're talking about the rules of writing, you always have to remember that they're guidelines more than actual rules. So once you get to a certain point in your writing and you know how to show and not tell, and you know what you're doing in that respect, there are places where it works better to straight up tell people, and there are styles of story where you can break the traditional rules of writing and you can do things that an editor might tell you not to do. So for a beginning writer, the key is to know how to do it and to figure out all the stylistic, structural norms of a story. Once you get to that point, once you've mastered that, that's when you start branching out, and that's when you can start writing some things that are really pushing the boundaries of what we know is possible, and you can start doing some really interesting and creative things with it.
The other thing that I wanted to bring up as well is that I don't believe that the revision process gets enough attention when it comes to writing a story. When artists make their pictures and all that, sorry, we're writers, we have to talk and all that, but when artists make their own pictures, they start with sketches, thumbnails. They'll go through 10 or 20 of them, just trying to figure out the right composition. When musicians make their music, they have to throw out tons of different beats and all that don't end up making the final cut. It's the same thing with writing as well. You have to resist the urge to just publish your first draft. You have to be willing to just run it by as many people as possible, getting it as polished as possible, and then after that you can just kind of step back from your story and take pride in what you've done.
There's no such thing as a good writer. There are only good editors.
well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time. Yeah. Add something else?
The advice that I would have for writers is largely this: don't get hung up on trying to get features. Don't get hung up on trying to get an Equestria Daily. These things are almost random in some ways, especially FIM features. There's no fixed way to get them. So basically work on just telling the story that you want to tell, and the readership will follow. Don't get hung up on chasing the feature box or chasing Equestria Daily. If your particular style of writing doesn't go along with Equestria Daily, oh well. Write to be writing.
Right. And
Thank
of
you very
course, if you aren't so good with words or are illiterate, such as myself, you can tell your stories through pictures. And we actually have some of the animations here. We've got now. What is this going to be? What is this going to be? I'll show you.
I'm working on an animation. It was showed it off at Solrak's panel at EQLA. It's actually a marriage between Transformers and ponies. It's called Pinky Prime.
I'm loving this already.
It's so basically this is the battle between Sparkletron and Pinkie Prime at the library. A lot of shots are in various stages of productions. The first couple of shots are finished and final. Then it kind of goes into like where you see me. I'm still drawing the picture.
You're short selling it. You're short selling it.
Okay, here we go. So here we go. Might want the camera.
Big Hot Macadrod, can you put away your sense of pixelation? Seriously, that shit is getting on everything. Yep.
And that's pretty much all I got done so far.
The fact that you still had the old school in there is perfect. I couldn't have asked for anything more.
So look for it in a couple of months. It should be completed. It just takes a while.
Animation?
Excellent.
No, animation takes no time whatsoever.
No.
My animate button broke, so now I have to do everything by hand. It kind of sucks.
Just Google some software. Well, from the film fiction writing room, I am LTT Moose.
And I am Mason L. Cat.
I got nothing else.